A very warm welcome. Today we have with us Mr. Ankit Agarwal, who is the head IT infrastructure and governance at Encora. Thank you so much for joining us at CXO TV, sir.
Thanks for me. Thanks for the invitation. Thank you.
First of all, sir, we would request you to share about your journey, how it has been over the years. If you can share it with our CXO TV audience.
Yeah, thanks. Journey, it has been almost 23 years of IT infrastructure journey, which I've seen. Since, 2000 till 2020, it has been an immense journey where I've seen ups and downs of the IT infrastructure, how it has transformed from the ages of Windows NT to Windows 2020 and the cloud journey where it started with AWS, Azure, and everything moving towards SaaS operations and everything. These 23 years, I have worked in various domains, including finance, and 4 years with government of Punjab as well. And, sitting at, working with one of the telecom provider, BSNL, for 4 years, and now with Encora for almost 3 years now. So all these years, I have been, trying to innovate IT wherever I work and continuing efforts towards a digital transformation journey, which includes automating security, governance, and those kind of things to talk about. So that's all.
Definitely been a long journey, and have literally seen how the transformation has happened over the years. So, in your opinion, sir, we would actually like to know that what are the key challenges that the IT infrastructure has been facing, the professionals have been facing in the industry today, and how to address these challenges and highlight what are the critical components for a robust IT infrastructure and how these components would actually contribute to the overall success of an organization.
When you talk about key challenges, you have to see holistically how it has evolved these years. The challenges with IT professional have always been there. Now, they have converted now into some shape where these challenges are now aligned with the business, how the business operates. If you see the history, there's always been a change, how organization do business, how the business landscape changes, and how the entire environment changes. Accordingly, IT, I would say, has always been aligned. But if you talk about the current scenario, the relevant scenario, the first and foremost key challenges that IT interface is the cybersecurity. Everyone has talked about, in these past 2 years, especially in these past 2 years, cybersecurity has become, a ghost to tame for everybody. It has become a problem. But at the same time, apart from becoming a problem, it has given IT to understand more about business and how those implications can impact the IT infrastructure. So IT infrastructure is not restricted only to service and data center. They now also understand how the organization progression socially, economically can impact the IT infrastructure in such a way. And cybersecurity threat, if you talk about, it has evolved because of the increased reliance of digital infrastructure. Everyone moving to cloud, everything becomes a single click operations. Do a single click, you spin the services, and most important thing, it is not only the IT. Everyone can do that kind of thing. So that primarily have evolved the cybersecurity threat, and IT infrastructure is always facing. This is the foremost challenges that they are facing. Other one is the data privacy and compliance. Now, data privacy has always been there, but if you see, various rules and regulation have come very prominently now, which really calls about these compliance standards to be maintained and to be adhered by every organization. Failing which, there are huge penalties in countries to go. In fact, the government of India has also come up with a draft of this data compliance and privacy, and this bill will be soon tabled in Parliament. Now, I have a different version over this, that the data privacy has to be related with the techno-social style of work. See, at one point of time, we say my name and my mobile number, they are very key to data privacy. But I feel that has become a common, and we can't live without sharing a mobile number to anybody. You go to the mall, you go to the same, anywhere, they ask about your mobile number. And the same thing is being used for your official work also. Nowhere you keep the two mobile. You don't see people carrying two mobile where they separate the calls between personal and official. It becomes same. So data privacy, this entire techno-social working style where now your identity becomes your mobile number and email ID. And as soon as you give your OTP start coming in and you see that you are safe. So maintaining this data privacy standards, how to classify the data, what is private, what is not private, and to segregate the data between official and personal. That becomes a key challenge, identification and classifications. Now, if you're seeing they're evolving now, generative AI, which is coming now, talks are also on in certain countries to table the bills and regulation to its regulated use. So these things will keep on coming, and IT infra will always have a challenge in adapting to these frameworks and aligning the IT infrastructure to comply with these upcoming regulations as they come. The third thing is the digital transformation. Very, very keyword, very buzzword. And organization is adopted and transformed digitally like no one. Post-COVID and during the COVID, we have seen people move their entire business to cloud. And now it's a reverse shift is happening. They are moving from cloud back to the on-prem. So digital transformation, adoption to the key services, key things that becomes a very challenge to the IT. The reason being because they have to adapt, they have to train themselves. They have to fill that skill set gap. That's why it needs a faster adoption. And since IT infra is a key pillar to business, if they don't adopt it very quickly, business objectives will not. So the constant skilling, and whenever some new technology is coming, just like how developers, they start working on the new technology, IT infra is also a challenge to transform digitally and adopt the new technologies. And as I said, the cloud adoption, everyone talks about the cloud adoption. Choosing the right partner and seeing that how we can bridge the gap and how we can collaborate between three main key pillars of the IT, the vendors, and the OEMs. A key collaboration is definitely required. Otherwise, you will see all the three talking in a different language and the objectives will not be met. So cloud adoption is also one of the key challenges. Lastly, the risk management of the compliance. Risk is not now discussed at the top level at the board. Risk is not discussed at the lowest level now. Employees are being made aware that if they do a single click, what risk they would carry. So a robust risk management plan and integrating the IT risk in enterprise risk management is again a challenge. So scaling the IT infrastructure resources and professionals to understand the risk, they are mapping their impact when they consider not only the IT, but also they should consider the business as a whole. That is a key challenge with IT professions are.
I think very rightly put forward with all the key major challenges, be it the data privacy or the risk management or the compliance thing or the cloud computing. So, taking ahead with the concept of data privacy you just spoke about, you would actually like to know that data privacy and compliance, which are extremely becoming important for any organization or industry for that matter. So what strategies will you employ to ensure that this IT infrastructure and governance align with the relevant regulations and standards? So in your experience, what are the key factors to consider when designing disaster recovery and business continuity plans for IT infrastructure?
So I would say the identification and classification. These are the two words that will come wherever we talk about the data privacy and also disaster recovery and business continuity. First, business has to accept the fact that everything cannot be, or what do you say, that every activity in the organization or IT infra cannot be replicated 100% with respect to disaster recovery. Because the footprint has broader. You have footprint not only in the physical parameter, not in the office, but we have seen that people now working from the office. For me, if an employee working from their home, for me, that becomes a remote office for me. And I have to maintain that particular desk on which the company laptop is sitting. So that becomes my parameter. So parameters are becoming very smaller. And to maintain that, we have to identify first what are the things where we want to protect. What are the IPRs that we do have? Gone are the days where IT would say that some file is being stored on a server. I don't know what are the contents of the file. So we have to understand, it is not necessary that we will go inspect what is there, but identifying that particular file and accordingly classifying it is a big activity in that sense. I've seen the organizations, so everyone talk about the DLP, data loss prevention. What they do is, okay, something is there, let's implement a solution. But they implement a solution. So what they do is, and they adopt the processes with respect to GDPR, or they start tracking the emails, they start tracking the files which are sharing the Aadhaar numbers, social security numbers. So for them, only these things becomes DLP coverage. But that is much more than that. You have to protect the data from where it is originating. And once it is originating, how you classify and how first you have to identify the source and whether the source who is sharing, what is their risk profile. Every user has its own profile. It starts from the board till the user. And you have to tag not only the information, but also the resources, identify, classify those things. Once you have that, you will have a definite strategy in place to have these data privacy standards in place using any tool, whichever you want. So it becomes technology agnostic in that sense. You can adopt anything if you are very clear what you need to identify, what you have, those things in place. Right. Now, when it comes to standard, now organization works everywhere. And you talk about the Europe, they have GDPR standards. I would say Asia, there might not be. US, there are the standards. So what you need is a robust system where those controls are mapped processes that you have. It's not humanly possible to do all those things. It is very necessary that you maintain and you adopt some solution which can map your vision and gives you those results fast. Otherwise, you keep on mapping one control. By the time you will complete that exercise, another time will come up.
In terms of IT security, so what are the major concerns for the businesses across the industry? We have seen so much of cyber threats, and security data is in a concern case. So how do you implement and maintain a strong security framework and safeguard the sensitive information and prevent it from cybersecurity threats? So if you can share some highlights with us in terms of your approach for evaluating and selecting the appropriate vendors as well, or technology solutions for IT infrastructure projects.
Okay. So first of all, when we will talk about maintaining and implementing any security framework in organization, and what you are trying to protect. So we have seen era in 2012 where there were silos, components working in silos, and we have to focus on those components, secure those components. Now everything is internet driven. So what you need a good bandwidth, and that's all you need. Otherwise, the business can practically run on the internet, and deliverables can happen. So the foremost thing, before you implement a security framework, you have to understand the entire risk map of your organization and what is the organization objective, and then highlight and identify the critical assets what you want to protect, because those identification will change the controls that you want to do. For example, finance, the data behavior is entirely different. But when you talk about any KPO, BPO, which handles the data with respect to individual, the standards of and the controls that you implement of data, that becomes a different. You talk about the IT service industry. For them, the IPR, the codes, whatever the code that they are writing, that becomes a critical. Now, if you talk about the current, you have seen the software supply chain management. It is coming in a faster pace. Why? Because we have seen that GitHub becomes a very unique source of writing a code. We have seen the Microsoft coming up with the Git Copilot. You just tell them, and you will have a code within fraction of a second. But when you do codes and everything, developers do not write. So this type of organization, there will be a different risk. When they develop any products there. So the risk assessment becomes very critical before you go for any implementation of any security framework. Once you have those risk assessed, you're determining whether they are positive or negative. Now, I especially like to call out this positive and negative aspect. I have seen the risk and governance, they focus only on the negative risk, but they never talk about the positive risk. So risk cannot be always negative. Once you assess the risk, those positive outcomes will definitely tell you how strong you are on the compliance front and whether your systems, security framework are giving you the desired results. And sometimes strengthening those positive security framework will nullify your negative security risk. So every time when you do a risk assessment, call out for positive, negative risk. And once you have these entire map driven and you have the compliance standard, you talk about the ISO, you talk about the SOC 2, the NIST framework, and other frameworks you call about. So you will get a very clear picture where your organization stands. So you should have a strategic approach instead of just start doing things. My way of doing is I always talk about the use case scenarios. Blindly, I do not call any technology to adopt. Any technology will not be perfect. You will see that they will be able to fulfill 80%. But for that 20%, it might be very critical, but you fail to achieve that. So always when you talk about implementing any security framework, talk about the use cases, draft a clear-cut RFP with the use cases, and map those use cases along with the technology and their pros and cons, whether they are able to fulfill or not. And once you have this entire framework defined, you will have no challenge identifying a correct OEM and a correct vendor. And vendor, when you talk about, once you have these plans, you can definitely assess the vendor on certain risk matrices. What is their support standard? What client they have served, and what is their financial backing, whether they can serve to innovate with you to reach to a certain level. That's how you will be able to implement a strong security framework in your.
So, in terms of the security transformations that we are having, or rather the right word would be the digital transformation that are taking place, and the cloud adoption, which you rightly put forward, that it needs to have that adaptability nature. So how do you navigate the challenges and opportunities associated with transforming this from traditional to this cloud-based infrastructure? If you can highlight that segment.
Yeah. What would I say? It's a challenge which has been coming from years and years. What should I move and what should I not move? Is it okay if I move everything to cloud? But no, if I move everything to cloud, what about the skill set and everything? So the traditional challenges remains the same when you talk about selecting the right vendor, what asset you should move, and the most important part is, even if you move, you should be aware and cognizant of the fact about the expenses and the cost. So it should not be the case that just for FOMO, fear of missing out, you move everything to the cloud. And over the period of time, you will say that your EBITDA is going down and you are not getting the desired results. So always, whenever I've been asked about this question, what should move, what should not be moved, I assess the resources, whether it's versus the response time, what is the availability factor, who are the users who will access these resources, and in fact, the geographic nature of those users sitting into it. Now, cloud will give you more benefit when the users are geographically spread for the obvious reasons. Further, who are the users? For example, attendance monitoring system. Is it okay for me to move it to the cloud? No. And can I live with it if person do not mark that in the same day, or they mark it after 1 hour? But when it comes to generating the invoice for my clients, can I afford a downtime? So these are very, very basic examples. So once you have those things determined, your decision becomes very easy. And further, selecting the right vendor. Everyone talks about Azure, AWS, and G Cloud, but they are private cloud vendors also. So it's not necessary that you move everything to Azure, AWS. Just they give very good user interface option, and they give a lot of flexibility and options. But you can opt for the private cloud also based on these parameters. So whenever you're moving, selecting a right cloud, it should be a very agnostic platform where the movement becomes very easy. And of course, the cost. You should have the cost management in place.
I think the entire cycle of how we have been approaching has changed from the times of COVID. So it also prominently, the working culture has changed. So, and the concept of remote work culture has become more prominent and flexible. So how important is it for a team to address these challenges while working on a remote workforce and maintaining the IT infrastructure security as well?
Remote working is going to stay for sure. And in fact, I have seen the organizations which were having a fear how it work. Now they have accepted the fact that this is the new mode of work that is going to stay. But again, the challenges will remain same. As I talked about some time back, the parameters have become smaller. So previously, the office becomes a physical parameter. So I used to protect my office. So as soon as somebody goes out, okay, it's okay. I don't mind it. But now my endpoint becomes my parameter. I have to protect them. So again, the visible challenges is how track in tracing the users from where they are working, what is their behavior pattern, and whether the zero trust is there. So when you talk about the zero trust, it is only the concept is changing from always trust to always verify. So anytime the remote working requires that you have to identify yourself first for any digital interaction. As soon as you start doing that, most of the challenges will get resolved. So again, securing the endpoints and how you are accessing the applications, whether you have the MFAs or not. Those are the things that every organization is addressed. But user behavioral analysis is something that everyone has to work. And of course, the zero trust on identity, that is something that we'll see that is still evolving, but we'll see that will come and that has to be addressed when you talk about the remote working environment.
How much crucial it has become to maintain the IT security while working in the remote sphere?
It's very critical. No, security has become a part and parcel. So wherever my office user is working, if they're accessing any office workload, for me the security start from there, and it will not end. So it's like once you enter into the office, you swipe your card. You enter into the office. The office assumes that swiping the green light means you are trusted. Now you can walk in the office and everything. But when you're moving out, again, it becomes some unsecured boundary for us. So similarly, whenever you are consider in the same analogy that if you are accessing any office workload, it might be your email, it might be your any SaaS cloud, you're accessing the client data and everything. For every interaction, you have to identify yourself. And in fact, if you've seen the geographical tagging, the geolocation change, those have become very mandatory controls now. So the person moving, in fact, between cities or changing the broadband connection, the systems, the AI ML algorithms, they are able to identify some changes happen. And as soon as the change happen, you identify yourself. So the security has become a part and parcel of every stage now. And it will continue to do that to give an assurance to the business and client that nobody is peeping into what somebody is doing. And we are blessed with the technology evaluation like AI, ML, where the companies, the security companies are investing. They are doing a lot of R&Ds and everything, which has really helped IT infrastructure to complete this roadmap. Otherwise, manual generating the logs is not possible. So the correlation, the context awareness, and the tools giving a context, it is really helping to devise an automated way of building this entire framework for the remote working.
Absolutely. I think this entire industry has been evolving with time and with emerging technologies that we are witnessing, such as you rightly pointed out as AI, ML, and edge computing, the IoT. So, can you share some of the examples, wherein successful IT infrastructure projects have been implemented using these technologies and the strategies that you have employed while achieving the project objectives?
Yeah, sure. So, 3 years, it has almost been 3 years. So, zero trust has become a sort of passion for me, zero trust journey. And everyone talks about the zero trust, implementing framework, you do this. But for me, it becomes a very simple standard that everybody in the organization, whether you talk about any user at any level, plus including the IT, the zero trust implementation should be uniform for it. Now, this approach we have taken just after the COVID scenario, where we understood our organization has also moved, was into the same boat where we did not have much of the controls, and we had to start from there. We had controls at certain level, but to strengthen those controls and again validating if the effectiveness of the controls was the challenges. So we started zero trust journey almost 3 years ago, and to that we focused on particular 2 areas. One is securing the endpoints, for which we adopted a very industry recognized solution and tool. But of course, after carefully evaluating all the use cases. So I still remember in 2020, when we were evaluating the solutions, we designed almost 150 use cases. Because I come from the government background. So, if you see the typical working of the government, how they do is they release almost 2,000 pages RFPs. And what you talk about the RFPs clearly spell out what is their requirement. And any vendor who works on this one, they understand, and then they evaluate their standing against those requirements. So I try to work in the same principles. With this evaluation, it was not only the POC and the results, but also we send those questions to the vendors to evaluate themselves where they stand. It becomes a very unique approach where somebody has to certify that I fulfill these criteria. And that process was successful where they themselves clearly told us that these use cases will not be able to fulfill. And that is okay because everything, but if those critical use cases are not following, will not implement them. So that entire endpoint rollout for entire solution rollout for all the endpoints, it was done in record 3 months. And why we did it in record 3 months? There were challenges, like people sitting remotely. We have to call them, take their machines, install it, and at the same time the change, because previously there was unrestricted access. As soon as we start implementing, entire user bank to purchase management mode, where there was always a fear: what is this tool? What it will do? Can I do my personal work? Can I access my personal banking site on my office laptop? So giving them assurance that what we are tracking and differentiating what is personal, what is official, and implementing in a record 3 months, that was a challenge that we did. Another thing was that we implemented is the identity security and similar rollout in the IT. I can proudly say that my entire IT team, they don't have the privileged admin passwords. So if they want to access any infra, and when we talk about the any infra, it is like server, network, SaaS application, they cannot do unless until they go through my privileged identity management system and access. So it's a process for them. And that has taken a time. We have taken almost 6 to 8 months, 9 months to implement, but the stage that we are, it has given a very reasonable assurance to the business that zero trust is not only for the users, but IT. So proudly I can say that in fact, my machine also do not have admin rights. Like, it gives a comfort. So nobody is beyond that zero trust scenarios. So these are the projects that still we are going. We have reached to a certain maturity level, and the results are seen that whenever the clients are coming to us, they answer the questions and everything. Now we are confident that 80-90% is we have already achieved, and that has resulted in achieving the business objectives.
Thank you so much for highlighting such unique projects that you have come up with. I think that's incredible. And looking ahead, coming to the other part, looking ahead, we would actually like to know, like, in your opinion, what are the emerging technologies that IT industry is going to shape in the next 2 years?
So I would say the technology has evolved a lot. Now,
right.
So, but what I have seen is now everyone is repackaging the entire concepts. So we have seen the XDR, previously it was SIM, then becomes SO, then somebody calls SO, so we have evolved SO from XOR. So you will see a lot of visibility in everything. But I would say that I see that IT infrastructure and security, it will consolidate at certain point of time. And the requirement of visibility, single pane of glass, that need is coming, and the need for the open security standard will come. And every OEM will have to adhere to those standards. Only then we can reach to certain stage. So all these technologies and tools, they will have a tough task in coming where adherence to the certain security standards, a common security framework, so that customers benefit by leveraging those solutions. At the same time, I see that use of the AI and ML tools, it will grow. And it will ease the life of the IT professional. I would not say that it will, just at the same time, it will make the IT infrastructure professionals more efficient and focus on certain broad objectives and the wider objectives, rather than focusing on the daily day-to-day tasks. So we'll see. Still, it's a long journey, but yes, I would really like to see that vendors who are working in this direction and give us something.
Yeah, there will be a huge amount of further advancements that already advancements are taking place. I think it's going to just amplify further. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us at CXO TV, and of course, very insightful knowledge session for our audience. Thank you for sharing with us your time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.